Where are the lost tribes of Israel? Maybe you are one of those tribes. You are part of those tribes. Today we are finding them. What do you say? I'm going to reveal to you in this video some incredible things up to date as of today. Impressive. Listen, impressive. From beginning to end, I think this video will bring you a lot of blessings, God willing. Listen first. Context. Tribes of Israel. Let's go to the origin. Who is Israel? Let's look at the people. As you probably know, the people of Israel, we come from our three great patriarchs. Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov are our three great patriarchs. Very good. Now, who is Yaakov? Yaakov is Israel. You should know that it's written in the Bible that God changes Yaakov's name to Israel. That is, Israel has both the name Yaakov and Israel. He is ours, the third patriarch, the grandson of Abraham, and from him they come. The 12 tribes. Basically, they are the 12 tribes, although there is something interesting that doesn't. Many people know that Joseph has a double portion. Therefore, there are two tribes that come from Yosef Atzadi, the just Joseph, which are Ephraim and Menashe. And this is what we are going to talk about in this video. Especially about Menashe, about current events, about what is happening today with Menashe. Basically, it's been a few years now, but you are going to see incredible things like the tribe of Menashe. It's arriving, it has already started to arrive. Obviously, it already arrived a few years ago in the state of Israel. But listen carefully to a bit of the historical context, and then we will delve further into our current story. Very well. First, Abraham, as we said. Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Very well, Yaakov. We said God changed his name to Israel. Basically, 70 people arrived in Egypt about 3,350 years ago, approximately. They arrive in Egypt as slaves, and well, what happens there? As you know, we are slaves in Egypt. Actually, before that, it's about 200 years earlier, more or less, and we arrived in Egypt. The Israeli people, we arrived in Egypt. As you surely know, we were enslaved in a very cruel way. And basically, God reveals himself. I'm saying this in a very summarized way. God reveals himself, speaks with Moshe, our great prophet. Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom, our great Rabbi Moses. And basically, God, after the 10 great and famous plagues, takes the people of Israel out of Egypt. This obviously leaves the world astonished by the divine revelation unique in history. With the plagues, the opening of the Red Sea, then we arrive in the desert, and then we receive the Torah at Mount Sinai. Basically, the world learned about this great divine manifestation of God. God reveals himself, speaks to God's people. Where are God's people from? Basically, you have to know that by then we were already families, but we came from the 12 tribes. Obviously, as we said before, we came from Yaakov, from Jacob, from his 12 sons, including 2 grandsons. As we said, there are the 12 tribes, but including the tribes of Ephraim and Menashe. Very well, which are? Ephraim and Menashe are the sons of Joseph, who is the son of Jacob. Therefore, Ephraim and Menashe are the grandchildren of Jacob. Well, I hope this gives you, in a very summarized way, a bit of historical perspective. What are we talking about? All right, we've arrived at Mount Sinai. And as you probably know, God speaks to the people of Israel. But there are things that unfortunately some people don't know. Many people say, but you, the people of Israel, how do you know? The Torah, whether it's real or not, it's something very simple. God spoke to them in an obviously universal way at that moment because people found out about this great spiritual event. But on the level of the Israeli people, you have to know that God revealed himself to everyone. Our sages explain that already from the moment of the splitting of the Red Sea. Our sages explain that the simplest person among the people of Israel reached such a great prophetic level, even higher than what the great prophet Yehezkel could imagine. And Yehezkel Hanavi in Hebrew, or the prophet Yehezkel, what an impressive dimension did he have. You should know that the simplest person of that generation, the generation of the Exodus from Egypt, achieved a prophetic level higher than the prophet Yehezkel. That means that here we are seeing that there is an entire generation of millions of people who together in unison experience the divine revelation, And all of this is closely connected with the tribes. Now, if you want to understand, and in fact, I want to tell you and ask you to write to me. here in the comments. All the thoughts and reflections you have about these topics. Because these are topics that go back thousands of years, current topics and topics that might have to do with you. I don't know where you come from, but maybe you come from one of the tribes of Israel. It's interesting to know. So I'd love for you to tell me your personal story about these topics I'm asking you about here in the comments, and I'll see you in the comments. That's it. I close parentheses and continue. Therefore, here we see something impressive, which is God. He reveals himself to an entire people, which basically, at that moment, was the turning point at which we became. From families, basically from real tribes. Obviously, we came from tribes that were united. Obviously, we all came from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Of course, that obviously, yes, but basically we were families. We were not a single people with a single Torah, which basically Torah comes from to teach. It's teaching. Basically, that's when God, in some way, reveals himself in unison to all the people. And he gives us his great Torah, which our sages explain that God says the Torah is a gift. I say it in my own words. It's a precious gift that he takes from his most treasured possessions and gives it to the people of Israel. Obviously, for the blessing of the whole world, it's not something exclusive to the people of Israel. The Torah is meant to be relevant to all the nations of the world. Obviously, God asks his people, the people of Israel, who are called the spokespeople of his voice. Through the Torah, obviously, we have to understand that God hides his will. Not only does he hide it, he also reveals it. But as the expression goes, he hides his will in the Torah, so that the people of Israel, the people of God, can reveal it. Now, very well, we are going to go through the major milestones of everything I'm going to tell you until we reach the land of Israel, and then the tribes, and finally the present day. But I'm going to try to be brief so I can go straight to the key points I want to tell you about. But obviously, we could talk about this for a long time, for many hours, but we need to focus on what I want to tell you. But basically, understand that, first of all, the whole issue of the return of the tribes is obviously related to what we're talking about. Something from a long time ago, yes, really. About 3,350 years ago, we received the Torah. Therefore, it's incredible how today the people of Israel follow the Torah and return to their origins, both in terms of the Torah and their ancestral land. Obviously, the tribes have been returning for years now. Just as the prophecy says, the tribes are returning to the land of Israel. Now, very well. I'm going to talk to you about two things, two incredible aspects of what happened at Mount Sinai so you can understand the magnitude of what we're talking about. First and very important is the following. God in the first commandment. I say it in Hebrew, I work it in Spanish. It says like this. Anohi Adonai robecha ayerot setich hameretz mitzrayim ibetabadim. It says Anohi. Anohi means I am God, your God, who took you out from the land of Egypt, from the house of slavery. Very well. Now the first word, which is Anohi, which would be translated as I, hides an incredible acronym, impressive, our sages explain. Which is the following, I'll say it, it's in Aramaic, it's not in Hebrew, it's in Aramaic, it's the language that was spoken in Babylon. It was like the English of that time, so to speak, a widely spoken language. That's how ancient Aramaic was. Ana nafshi ktavit veyavit are four words. Ana would be I, nafshi, my soul, ktavit, I wrote it, and veyavit, and I delivered it. Therefore, we need to understand the dimension of what we're talking about. That God is basically on a metaphorical level, but it's obviously something real on a deep and spiritual level. God gives his soul through the Torah. The first commandment, the first word of the first commandment, hides this secret. I, my soul, wrote it and gave it. Therefore, God says, not only to the people of Israel, but to the whole world. Do you want to know what my soul is? What does my soul mean? Do you want to know what I want from my universe, from my world, and therefore from my creatures? From you? Do you want to know? Do you want to know? Open the Torah and study it. How? How to study it like the Orthodox Jews teach it? Obviously, we have the unbroken chain from Mount Sinai until today and into eternity. Teacher, student, father, grandfather, mother, daughter, son, grandmother, grandfather, father, student, son, grandson. It is an unbroken chain. It's incredible, it's impressive. Here we see a spiritual treasure that is passed from generation to generation and is unbroken. There were no breaks, although unfortunately, there were very difficult moments in the history of poor Isabella. There were communities that were peaceful, communities that were persecuted, and vice versa at different stages in history. As you know, 2,000 years of persecutions, and this has a lot to do with the tribes. But basically, I wanted to focus first on the spiritual strength, which is the first commandment that God speaks to each person. It also says, Anohi says, I brought you out of the land of Egypt. That is, what you complain about, I am your God who brought you out. That is, there is a particular bond between God and each person who was at Mount Sinai. And you have to know that all the souls of the people of Israel were there. The 600,000 mother souls of the people of Israel. Obviously, we are millions and we have been millions throughout history. But you have to know that there are 600,000 mother souls in the people of Israel, which basically subdivide into many bodies. Many lives, in many generations, of course. But these 600,000 mother souls, we were all there. From all the people of Israel, including obviously the converts of all generations, to the people of Israel. According to the law of the Torah, the orthodox law of the Torah, of the people of Israel. Very well, second commandment. Will you have idols before me? That is the absolute prohibition of idolatry. Obviously, God abhors idolatry. We see that very clearly in the Torah, how God abhors idolatry. What is idolatry? Basically, idolatry, put very simply, is basically when a person, instead of turning directly to God, which is like what we talked about in the first commandment, that God speaks to each person, I am God, your God. Basically, what does he tell us? Connect with me, talk to me. And the second is, do not have other gods before me. Basically, between you and me, no intermediary, you and me directly. If you want to talk to me, talk to me. Don't look for objects, don't look for living people, don't look for dead people who want to intercede in our connection. If you want to connect with me, talk to me. Who is God? Obviously, the Creator, the Almighty, who is the Creator of everything, is the origin of everything, includes everything, is above everything, and is far above everything. Our understanding. Obviously, He is the Creator of the universe, of everything we know and everything we don't know, obviously. I mean, this is very central here. Why? Because everything we're talking about is always rooted in the Torah. And when we talk about the Torah, it's the Torah of God, the Creator, and the Almighty. Now, I want to move a little further ahead in the story. Basically, we received the Torah from God, the written Torah, the oral Torah, which basically God gave to Moshe. The Torah, basically the explanation of the written Torah. That is what would be the oral Torah. Passed down from generation to generation, which is not necessarily written in the Bible. That is the oral Torah. In fact, the written Torah is written, the word Torot, Torot is plural, Torot is plural. Therefore, here I explain to you that our sages say this refers to the written Torah, which God obviously gave to Moshe and the people of Israel. As I told you, we were millions of people who witnessed that God really gave the Torah to Moshe. Because we all heard the voice of God, and we saw the Hebrew letters from God with the commandments. It's impressive. That's also something incredible. It's not our topic, so I don't want to go on too much. But basically, we have to understand that the divine revelation, at that moment, God revealed himself in a unique way in history to an entire people, not just to a prophet. Obviously to Moshe, of course, but not only to Moshe. God revealed himself to all the people of Israel. And there were also amazing miracles throughout the time of the Exodus from Egypt and everything, during the giving of the Torah. Many nations learned about the magnificence of this impressive and unique spiritual event in history. Therefore, you need to know this. For example, when the Red Sea was parted, our sages explained that someone in another country who had a glass of water would see that glass of water split in two. That is, on a spiritual level, that's just an example. But on a spiritual level, the impact of the exodus of the people of Israel from Egypt and the parting of the Red Sea. The giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai was a unique historical event in history. Therefore, this is something impressive. So as we said, the prophetic level of the people of Israel is incredible. Then we spent 40 years in the desert with the tabernacle, which was like a portable temple that was assembled and disassembled. According to the dialogue with God, God had clouds of glory and pillars of fire with us. And basically, at night, there was the pillar of fire, the clouds of glory that protected the people of Israel, like a microcosm that protected the people of Israel from wild animals. It was impressive. It was like a kind of embrace from God. For 40 years, you have to understand that we were like a baby. As a people, as we said, we became a nation at Mount Sinai. From being families, the children of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, from being families, we became a single people with a single Torah, with a very specific mission to enlighten the world, doing God's will in the land of Israel. That basically has a lot to do with what we're going to talk about regarding the tribes. That is to say, we have to see that we spent 40 years in the desert, a very impressive connection with God. God took care of us. It was like being pampered, like a constant caress. Our sages even explain that. Think about it. In a desert with burning sand, our feet did not swell. For 40 years, our clothes grew with us, clean and neat. The clouds of glory were like a kind of dry cleaner that kept our clothes clean and pressed. Obviously, we lived in a reality, what is called a metziut nisit in Hebrew, a completely miraculous reality. It was a total connection with God, an impressive relationship. For 40 years, the manna fell from the sky. We could give it any flavor we wanted. It was impressive. Water, the well of Miriam the prophetess, Miriam the tzaddiket, the righteous Miriam, the sister of Moses. With Aaron the Cohen, the high priest Aaron, impressive, 40 years like that. Now then we enter, this is very, very quick. I'm summarizing a lot. We enter with the great student of Moses. By divine order, God commanded this, that it had to be this way. Joshua the son of Nun, and Oshua bin Nun, the great tzaddik, the great righteous one. Joshua, the son of Nun, is the one who continues the leadership after Moses. And we enter the land of Israel. We were in Gilgal for 14 years, and then we were with the tabernacle in the famous and ancient city of Shiloh, which actually has a great museum today, not a closed museum, but an open museum, meaning a spectacular, beautiful place. In the village of Shiloh is the ancient city of Shiloh, where we basically stayed for 50 years. We arrived 54 years after the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. When we said 40 years in the desert, 14 years in Gilgal, which is in the land, that's when we entered, and then 369 years in the ancient city of Shiloh, with the tabernacle in Shiloh. It's impressive. Think about it. Almost 400 years. It was the first great capital of Israel. There, regarding the tribes, you should know that the areas of the land of Israel were divided according to the tribe. And you need to know this. It's impressive that each tribe, on a soul level, belongs to its land, to its plot of land, to its area, to its territory in the land of Israel. You need to know that when God. Basically, this was done through a kind of spiritual lottery, to put it simply, where obviously it was God's will that each tribe was given a different area of the land of Israel. And that has a lot to do with the soul of the tribe and the soul of each individual in the tribe. This obviously is prior to what happened later, when unfortunately we were exiled from the land of Israel and there are 10 lost tribes. This is basically what we're going to focus on in a few moments, God willing. But basically, it's very important for you to know the context of all this in order to really understand the magnitude of what we're talking about. All right, so we were in Shiloh for almost 400 years, 369 years in Shiloh. Like I told you, the land was divided according to the tribe. Impressive. It's amazing to think that this was before the first and second temples in Jerusalem. This is like the first temple was a tabernacle. It wasn't a spectacular building like the Beit HaMikdash, the holy temple in the holy city of Jerusalem, which was truly an impressive building. Our sages explain that it was perhaps the most beautiful and tallest building in the Mediterranean, in the area near Israel. You have to realize it was incredible. Obviously, the tabernacle in Shiloh was more similar to the tabernacle we made in the desert, but basically, that's it. It's amazing to know that in Shiloh there was Samuel, the prophet, Hannah, his mother, Eli, the high priest. In other words, people like Joshua, the son of Nun. People of great spiritual stature. Impressive, impressive. Very well. Now let's move on a bit. Briefly, we'll go through a few stops until we finally reach the city of Jerusalem. First temple, second temple. Now, regarding the lost tribes, there's something impressive. You should know that more than 100 years before the first temple was destroyed, the Assyrian Empire exiled many tribes of the Israeli people as a strategy. And basically because that's the strategy the Assyrian Empire used. And it was normal at the time. They would come, conquer a place, and what they did was basically move the population of that place, in which he conquered another people colonized by himself. In this case, the Assyrian Empire. And for them to assimilate there. And that's what they wanted to do. Therefore, here we see the first great exile. The first great exile was this one by the Assyrian Empire. And you need to know. And now, I want to go through all the tribes. I want to focus on one, and then I want to focus on you and on what's happening today. Today, I'm going to focus on one tribe, which is an incredible story, the tribe of Menashe. They call themselves today Bnei Menashe. And you might ask yourself, but how do we know that they really are the tribe of Menashe? How do we know? Listen, it's amazing. A little bit of history. As we said, we were exiled. Many tribes were exiled by the Assyrian Empire. You should know that the tribe of Menashe is known to have been along the Silk Road. The Silk Road is a historically famous route, the Silk Road. Basically, these were routes that led to China. There was transportation of goods, obviously silk and other merchandise. And basically, that's what they did. The Silk Road, they reached China. The tribe of Menashe. In the 10th century, a Chinese emperor expelled the tribe of Menashe from China. And they arrived in the northeastern region of India, which is very close to the border with China, and there is where the Menashe tribe is basically concentrated in two areas, two places in India bordering China. Very well. And today, this has been going on for several years. There is a connection with them. The topic is being studied. And they went. I listened to a very important rabbi who was impressive in the stories. They had, until recently, if I remember correctly, until more or less, 1930 rituals of offerings like those of the Kohanim, as it was done in the past. You should know that they came. They left the land of Israel before the destruction of the first temple, and therefore they continued many of the temple's customs, offerings. And they wore white garments, and they themselves would say Vena and Menashe and take care. For example, on Shabbat, there were things they wouldn't do. That is, many things that people close to them in India would do completely. Therefore, obviously, anyone who studies the case can see how they really preserved many traditions of the people of Israel, of their tribe. The bold Menashe, also obviously impressive. Ben and Menashe, as you hear Menashe and Menashe sound similar. So what happens? The tribe of Menashe, and this is what I wanted to tell you a bit about, bringing it back to today and to who you are. I don't know where you come from. Maybe you have Jewish traditions in your family. Could that be? You should know that the people of Israel stayed for 2 more years, and normally we continue because there are Jews outside the land of Israel. There is still a diaspora, but thank God there are millions of us who are returning to the land of Israel. And one of them is one of the tribes that very, very, very likely, because of everything I'm telling you, the traditions and everything, are called Bnei Menashe. And something very interesting. You should know that at the end of the 19th century, people who came from them were conquered by the British. Therefore, there were missionaries who wanted to convert India to Christianity. And where did they start? Is this written in the library of Oxford University? Does the rabbi hear that I myself, these manuscripts from these very missionaries who said and wrote about why go first? Why go to these 2 regions of India first? because they are the children of Menashe, who are monotheistic Jews, unlike the Hindus, who are polytheistic. And they understood that it was better to go to those who had Jewish ancestry, who are monotheists, because it's much easier to evangelize them, to convert them. Therefore, these missionaries themselves write the reason why they wanted to first go and evangelize and convert the children of the tribe of Menashe. This is also something very interesting, that it was apparently known that this was the case even in the 19th century. Very good, very good. Now I want to go with a bit of biblical perspective to what we are talking about, because one might say, interesting, the powerful one was there, and the tribe of Menashe was there, and they came and are coming to Israel. No, 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 no. We have to call things by their name. We have to say things by their name. We have to understand that we are in a process in which God is carrying out redemption in a very, very, very accelerated way. And the biblical prophecies, not so many years ago, it was surely a big surprise. To think that God was going to bring us, for example, it is written that God will bring us to the land of Israel. On the wings of an eagle. Now think of an airplane today. What does it look like? What does it look like? Think thousands of years ago. Could anyone imagine that an airplane was going to bring the Jews to the land of Israel? Which looks like an eagle, obviously. Before, thousands of years ago, you couldn't say an airplane. Obviously, you couldn't say airplane. The concept wasn't known. But it's just an example. Therefore, here we see impressive things, how God leads our world to redemption in a very accelerated way. And one way to know it is that you don't have to study great things on a deep level. You simply have to read the verses. I'm going to read you the verses. First, we're going to go to the prophet Amos. The prophet Amos says the following. It's at the end of the book. It's chapter 9, verses 14 and 15. It says this, "And I will bring back the captivity of my people Israel," that is, from the captivity of the exile. God is going to bring his people, as we said. For example, the tribes. One of them, which is very clear, is the tribe of Menashe, who already live in Israel. There are still some left, but they already live in Israel. They have already arrived. Look, and I will bring back the captivity of my people, Israel. And they will rebuild the desolate cities and inhabit them, and they will plant vineyards and drink their wine. They will also make gardens and eat their fruit. And I will plant them in their land, and they will never again be uprooted from the land that I have given them. Very well. Do you see? Here I'm going to show you something that I showed in a video because I think it's very graphic. This is a leaflet of a warehouse that is in front of Shiloh, very close to Shiloh, to the ancestral city of Shiloh. Very good, very good. Do you see the warehouse? Very good. Now you can say, it's a prospect of a warehouse. But if I told you that what you're seeing here is prophecy, it's not a wine from some random origin, it's an Israeli wine. It's an Israeli wine. You should know that for 2,000 years the land was barren, just as the great American writer Mark Twain said. If I remember correctly, in 1867 when he was in Israel, he was struck by how barren the land was. There were practically no trees along the route, and he hardly saw any people. And today, millions of Jews and people from other nations are coming to Israel and celebrating Israel. And what he says, he used to say, I don't see. Cactus was hard to find. Just imagine a fruit tree, impossible. And what we have today is a garden, Israel. Green pastures, fruit trees. And what does he say? This wasn't 1,000 years ago. What Mark Twain said was even earlier, in 1867, if I remember correctly. Therefore, today the prophecies say that the earth is a paradise. And this is what I told you, that God says through the prophet Moses, God speaking, obviously the prophet says what God tells him to say. He says that he will bring back the captivity of the people of Israel, and they will rebuild the desolate cities. The cities of Israel are spectacular, impressive, with incredible technology and amazing beauty. They will plant vineyards and drink their wine, gardens, eat their fruit, and they will be planted in their land. And they will never again be uprooted from the land that I have given them. Therefore, here we see something impressive, how you can see the prophecy today with your own eyes, I'm going to tell you another one. This is a verse, not from the prophets, but from the book of Devarim, the fifth book of the Torah. Very well. From Deuteronomy. It goes like this. I'll tell you in Hebrew, it's short, and then I'll bring it to you in Spanish. And Hashem your God will restore your fortunes and have mercy on you. If your outcasts are at the ends of the heavens, then Hashem says, God, your God, will bring you back from captivity and will have mercy on you. And he will gather you again from among all the peoples. Even if your exiles are at the ends of the heavens, from there Alam, your God, will gather you, and from there he will take you. Therefore, here we see something impressive. It says here also in Hebrew, Veshav Hashem, impressive, Veshav Hashem. Actually, if one says that God is going to bring the Jews from the diaspora, it should say, explains Rashi HaKadosh, a great commentator, one of the greatest commentators of the Torah. Beheshiv Hashem, if I remember correctly, and he will bring, that's in Hebrew, but I'm going to explain it to you. Why? Because Beheshav Hashem means that God will return with his people to the land of Israel. Therefore, you have to understand, it's impressive. You have to understand. And this is what Rashi HaKadosh, the holy Rashi, the great commentator Rashi explains, that God, this is obviously in a spiritual metaphorical way as well. Obviously God is everywhere, but God decides in some way on a spiritual level to go out together with the exile of his people from the land of Israel. The land was left like a body without a soul, as I told you. Mark Twain says it was a barren land, like a desert, a swamp that is lifeless for 2,000 years. And then God says in the Torah, in Deuteronomy, it says like this, if you want to look it up, it's Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 3, 4, and 5. That is, God returns with his people. Therefore, when God returns with his people, the land, which was like a soul, like a body without a soul, returns, and the soul gives life to the body. And in fact, that's what I'm telling you today. It's a garden. The land of Israel is a garden. And we are in the process, but why is it a garden? Because it's a reflection that God returned to the land of Israel. God came back, brought his people back to the land. And obviously fulfilling his prophecies, that God waited for the exact moment, obviously, because God knows when the exact moment is for his biblical prophecies to be fulfilled. And that's what we see today. Therefore, when you see, now I'm going to show you a picture. Ethiopians on a plane in an operation that was carried out to bring Ethiopians here a few decades ago. On a plane, they removed the seats so that more Ethiopians could fit, and they returned to the land of Israel. Prophecy. And Rashi HaKadosh, the holy Rashi, explains that God brings each and every Jewish man and woman to their land one by one. Every story, every Jewish man and woman is impressive. Impressive, idealistic people. They don't come because of problems. Most people don't come because of economic issues, political problems, or persecution. Nowadays, millions of Jews are returning to the land of Israel. Why? Is it because of idealism, because of Zionism? Because they understand that the people of Israel have to be in their land and fulfill God's will as a people. As I mentioned a few days ago regarding Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel's Independence Day, that the whole purpose is for the people of Israel to be in the land of Israel and for us to be role models. Light unto the nations, or Lagoyim in Hebrew, light unto the nations, to be a model, an example for the nations. That this is already happening, so that they can see as a people. 2,000 years of exile, people from all over the world coming to Israel. The prophecies are being fulfilled. Is there war? Economic problems because of war, or for other reasons, or because they want to impose a blockade here, or because they want to. I mean, you can imagine whatever you want. It depends on the time, it depends on the year, different problems, or agricultural problems, or there's little rain, or there's too much rain. Or the neighbor wants to attack you, or there are many languages together. And many cultures together in a small country. You can whatever you want, but what is Policel? It has answers for everything. And delegations from all over the world come if they want advice on economics, finance, state defense, startups, high tech. Whatever you want. Why? But that's why. Because obviously, if we open our eyes and understand where we are, and that God, as we started to talk about, will return the lost tribes, because obviously, Loidak Memenonidak, it says, no one will be left out. I'll say it in my own words, God takes care of everyone, bringing them to the right place. In this case, if God wants every Jewish man and woman to bring them back to their land, and every person, whether Jewish or not, if someone wants to do good, God helps them. As it is explained, it is written. Whoever wants to purify themselves, God helps them. I say it in my own words. What does it mean? That they want to do things right? God will help you. God will help you. God will not leave you out. And this is an example, the subject of the tribes, lost tribes. Do you think someone is going to be left out? Is a tribe or a person going to be left out? Obviously, God, the Almighty Creator, knows perfectly what He does. And He knows perfectly how He will draw each person, each tribe, everyone, everything. There is supervision down to the smallest detail. God loves you. He watches over you every moment. God wants you to fulfill your mission in life. And therefore, to sum up our class, and now talking about the prophecies, now I want to tell you another prophecy to wrap up. The prophecy of Yehezkel, chapter 37, verses 21-22 says, and here we are going to summarize. It says, and here, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the nations, and I will make them one single nation upon the earth. And this is a little bit what we are saying, that this is not history, this is not history. Obviously, it has to do with history, but it's something much deeper than history. This is redemption in our days, it's redemption in our days. So you have to know that the suitcases are ready, the suitcases are ready. There are people who have already arrived in Israel with their suitcases, and those who haven't are getting them ready. If not physically, then concretely. Surely in their hearts they are packing their suitcases, and the nations are also packing the suitcases of their hearts of support for the land of Israel. And we can see that. I can say this personally with my beloved community, Israel High. What is Israel High? Israel High is a community, it's my community, my beloved community. What we do is try to do good in the world, help Israel, help the nations. And there are people who know that there are Jews and non-Jews, men and women in Israel High. In fact, if you haven't joined yet, I invite you here. Here you have information in the video description to request information, get advice, ask for any information you want to have here in the video description. If you haven't joined yet, you are more than invited. And here, what do? At Israel High, we have meetings, there are courses, there are activities to help the land of Israel. There is help for soldiers' families, for soldiers' wives, for soldiers' children, all kinds of support activities. That's Israel High, and it's not just me, it's a great organization. It helps the land of Israel for the blessing of the whole world. Therefore, this is a personal example that I'm sharing with you, and I invite you to join. Because you have to know that God promised, He told Abraham, those who bless you will be blessed. Every person who supports Israel is for Israel. At this defining moment, obviously we are at war, and there are many people who are on both sides. But we have to, as I said, the nations of the world are also packing their suitcases in their hearts. To say, I'm placing this suitcase for Israel, which means suitcase in the sense of chips. That is to say, I place my hopes on Israel, the Son, on Israel, on God, the Almighty, the Creator, who is the God of the people of Israel, and loves the people of Israel, and obviously loves all nations. But I stand with Israel. So may we have the merit to live like this, to live a life of redemption, and truly feel that the sound of the shofar is near. The sound of the shofar is near. And every step we take is a call to the shofar of God, to the shofar of God. That God tells all Jewish men and women, come back home, and to the nations He says, listen to my words. Choose for Israel. You have a unique opportunity, unique in history, to make things right, to choose for Israel. Unfortunately, for 2,000 years, many people saw Israel, many nations, many individuals saw Israel. Now is your opportunity. It's the whole world's opportunity to say enough. Enough with the persecutions. We understood that Israel, he loves his God, the Almighty Creator, loves the world, loves the nations, loves all creatures. Therefore, we love everyone because we are all part of God's creation. We love all of God's creation. Because obviously God gives us this world for our benefit, to give us pleasure, especially spiritual pleasure. And what is the greatest spiritual pleasure? To feel and to know that we are doing God's will at every moment, even in the smallest things in our lives. To smile, to say good morning, to give a glass of water, to help our neighbor. Everything is doing God's will, not just saying long prayers, which is perfect. Of course, we have to pray and we have to act. Of course, everything is welcome, excellent. We have to meditate, we have to pray, of course. But we have to know that the people of Israel, just as I told you on a national level, the people of Israel in the state of Israel, it's like Rabbi Cook said, Rabbi Avraham Yitzhak HaKohen Cook, Seker Tzadik, Bekadosh Liberha Sekotaraino. May his merit protect us. The great tzaddik, the great righteous man, Rabbi Cook, who was the chief rabbi of Israel, said this, Medinat Yitzhak. I'm going to translate it, he said. The state of Israel is the foundation of God's heavenly throne in this world. Therefore, it must be understood that every force manifested by the state of Israel, for example, the Tzahal, the Israel Defense Forces, which is basically the energy of strength. We defend ourselves. In fact, the definition of the army is the Israel Defense Forces to protect us. And if we have to attack, it's to protect ourselves. What does it mean to attack? It's like someone coming to attack you. Aren't you going to attack to defend yourself? Are you going to wait until they attack you and then defend yourself? There are people who, unfortunately, have their reasoning or their feelings confused. They don't put themselves in someone else's shoes. If an attacker comes to assault you, are you going to wait for them to hit you before defending yourself? Obviously, the Israel Defense Forces do everything they can to protect themselves in the most ethical way possible. There is no army as ethical as the Israeli army. You just have to ask. Even non-Jewish people who know a bit about the subject will tell you that. Not only Jews, non-Jews know it too. You have to ask the right person, obviously, but that's what I'm telling you. The Israeli army is the force. It's Angel Gabriel. Gabriel, the word comes from force. Basically, Angel Gabriel, the spiritual forces that emanate from Angel Gabriel. They are translated, I say it in my own words, they are translated through the Israel Defense Forces, Tzahal. The ministry of health is the angel, the forces, spiritual emanations of Angel Raphael. Raphael comes from the word refuah. Refuah means healing. It's the ministry of health. And that's how you can think about many, many areas. The jest, divine kindness. There is what is called the Bitua Leumi, the national insurance, which helps people who need help. That is to say, in this way, every aspect, every area of the state of Israel is a spiritual emanation to bring blessing to the world. Just like in the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, which was obviously that happened in the Beit HaMikdash, in the Holy Temple, the blessing for the whole world. Think about what happened in the days of King Shlomo, how much spiritual abundance, how much material abundance. There was world peace. The nations of the world came and sought advice from King Shlomo. Impressive. And God willing, we will be at a stage even greater than that spectacular era of King Shlomo. We must know that God leads his world from good to better, with ups and downs along the way, but always from good to better. So, God willing, may we have the perceptive ear to hear the great shofar of redemption. May it be with mercy, and may all the tribes return home to the land of Israel with great mercy. And may all the nations say in unison against the people, together, all the nations of the world, together with the people of Israel. Let us say, God is one and his name is one, God is one and his name is one. And may we have the merit at every moment of our lives to do God's will with joy and a good heart. Once again, I invite you to be a part, if you haven't joined yet, to be a part of my beloved community Israel High. And so, God willing, on a community level, because there are many people who feel alone, who don't know how to act on a community level. Here you have an opportunity, if you want, with great joy, to be part of my beloved community, Israel High, and together with a great community, do good, wish for good, and contribute only good, and giving much joy to God, the Almighty Creator, every moment of our lives, for long days, long years, doing the will of God, the Almighty Creator. With joy and a good heart for the blessing of the whole world, all of creation, success and blessings.